Alright guys, so this was not the video I planned on making today. I had no intention of even making a video today because I'm going to be streaming later on. I don't know when this video is going to come out now. But there has been a discussion that has popped up online, and it comes by way of a player called Kenzo. I believe Kenzo's a Guilty Gear player. I read it and I was like, this might pertain to Street Fighter, it might pertain to Guilty Gear, but the post was made about fighting games in general. And something you hear about fighting games these days is that they're like casino fighters, right? That there's way too much guessing going on, there's not enough neutral play, there's a lot of forced 50-50. That's something that people say a lot. It's something that I say a lot because I've been playing Tekken for a very long time. Now, I'm not talking about Guilty Gear, I'm not talking about Street Fighter, I'm not talking about Mortal Kombat, I'm talking about Tekken. So I'm just relating this to Tekken. Now, the reason I've got Tekken 7 on in the background is that I'm going to make an example of what I'm talking about so people understand where I'm coming from. But to start, I'm going to read out Kenzo's post. I'm going to go by bit, give my thoughts on it, and then there'll be some background footage to back up my points as well. So he says, okay, it's rant time. I'm going to keep it a buck. This fighting game casino bullshit has got to stop. Let's stop acting like 50-50 situations didn't exist in older games. I don't care how much you claim it's easier now to do said thing. It existed before and it's still here now regardless. Mix-ups such as shimmy, meaties, projectile oki, air dash mix-up, command jump mix-ups, empty jump lows, hell for the sake of neutral skips of all kinds as well. I don't care how easy or not it was there. All of these are still present in today's fighting games. It's almost as if people's rose tint on the older games are too shiny, which I find funny since I still play the old Tekken games. I played Tekken 7 on stream with the community. I still play Tekken Tag 2. Every now and then when I go to my local arcade, they only have Tekken 6, so I might play it like once a month. So it's not that I have rose tinted glasses when it comes to Tekken. I still play the old Tekken games, okay? As a matter of fact, I play Tekken 7 more now than I do Tekken 8. Everyone has access to these things, and the reality is the average player is way stronger than they were a decade ago thanks to content creators and social media. That much is true. I can tell you that people in general have gotten better at fighting games because they've gotten more popular. They're still a niche, but there's more tech that is being shared. The people that sat at the top of certain games for a very long time no longer sit there uncontested. A good example of this is myself. I remember when I was playing Soul Calibur 5, I was pretty much uncontested when it came to who was using algo in the UK. Other than the top UK players, no one could really touch me on that game. I went back to it not too long ago, and it's not as easy for me to push my weight around because algo's tech has now been shared across the board. People know how to fight the character, even for people that are still playing Soul Calibur 5. I went in there and I was still able to do well, but it was nowhere near as easy as it used to be. Now, part of that is me obviously not playing for a long time, but when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, these guys understand what is going on here. So even if I was playing, tech has been shared. So that is true. In general, fighting game players, they're more aware of what's going on. The flip side of that, though, is that there are certain fighting games, like if you look at Tekken 7 and Tekken 8, where the skill gap, in my opinion, is night and day. I think Tekken 7 is much harder to play on a consistent basis and do well than it is Tekken 8 for different reasons. Tekken 8 is more exhausting because of the way it's designed, but I wouldn't say it's a harder game to play. It's definitely much easier to move around in terms of like sidestepping, but I guess that's a con of Tekken 8 because sidestepping wasn't great. But in general, Tekken 8 feels a bit more smooth. Moves are easier to do. For example, like more advanced combos are easier to execute now. You've got access to like electrics now when you go into heat, so that skill barrier of using it has gone out the window, and heat is a very, very strong and prevalent mechanic, so you actually do use electric heats a lot without having to go through the trouble of learning how to use the character properly. Just in general, picking up characters in Tekken 8, for me at least, is way more simple than it is in Tekken 7 or Tekken 6 or Tekken Tag 2. The general execution in the game has gone down, which falls in line with most modern fighting games. They are dumbing them down so more people come in. I'm not sure it's having the effect that they think it has, but that is the line of logic. We have to embrace the fact that we're getting greater competition due to this. Constant complaining, oh, it's too easy and you can get randomed out because someone new rocked your shit. Get better, you have that as an option. Or, oh, the game's design is so bad in comparison to what? The way they made games back then with next to no updates. Having to fight the good fight back in my day with my weaker character. When chips sucked, I had next to no choice and switched characters until the next version of Guilty Gear. There was no patch, got a swap to stay competitive, and even then still played him through the tough times. Bless my soul. Now, I don't know how old this individual is. I'm 32. I've been playing fighting games for a very, very long time. I grew up in like the London arcade scene in Trocadero. I used to go with my boys. I understand where he's coming from, where he says that we just had to deal with it then. But the reason we had to deal with it then is because we had no choice. Now we have an option. Now we can say to people, hey, this character's busted. People are getting easy wins with this character. Can you tone this down? Or this move is unblockable when it's not supposed to be. Can you change that? Just because the old games forced us to deal with crap, like forced us to deal with broken walls or unblockable moves from standing positions or whatever it might be, a tech trap, doesn't mean that we should deal with it now. And it also doesn't make you a better player for it. We just had no choice. Our hands were handcuffed. I remember playing the old Tekken games. I've been playing Tekken since its inception. And yeah, I had to deal with stuff. And if I couldn't deal with it, I'd look for another character to deal with it. But now we have options. Now we can say to the developers, hey, this has been poorly designed. Can you fix that? Can you tone this down? It's not fair, or it's ruining the fun in the game. For example, people complain about Dragunov all the time. Rightfully so. The character is stupid. I don't like the idea of a player having their hand held. You know, it is what it is. Just because we came from a time where we had to struggle with characters does not mean we should continue to struggle with characters. Now, I will admit, some people complain for things they don't really understand. They'll complain about things when they don't really have the skill to understand why they're losing to it. That is also true. Both things can be true at the same time. At the very least today, as I said, a player can wait for a patch to put them back in the game with their favorite character or tone down things they don't like about the game. That's held true across the board for literally every other competitive esports game since Counter-Strike. Patchwork exists now. This is commonplace now and is the status quo of our current generation. We can get things patched and adjusted. However, I cannot condone patching to suit the needs of a single demographic, and that being 0.1% of competitive players. Even though there is some merit of shaping the game's meta in this regard, guess what? Pro players can be wrong. That's true, pro players can be wrong. They're still human beings. They're not 100% on the ball all the time. Remember, Luke wasn't that good in beta, right? Top tier. Jury, not that good. Wins Capcom Cup. Ed wasn't that good either. Top 1 now. Akuma is unstable. Best in the game depending on who you talk to. But why are they good? Do they do the casino bit better? No, the reality is the player base got better and pushed what those characters can do. Now, I can't speak to Street Fighter too much. I don't follow Street Fighter 6 too much, but all of that is true. I don't have a disagreement with that particular point. There are characters that drop in games, and I've also said for a long time now that when a game is new and it's fresh and the character's fresh, give it some time. I even made a video about Dragunov actually about 5 months into the game, and I said Tekken's a very complex game. Let's give it some time to breathe. People might find that counterplay. Now I can confidently say the character's too strong. He's too strong. I think a year is enough time. We're about 10 months in, I think. 10 months is enough time to really, we've given it its time. And Tekken is more complex because of the range of moves in this game. There's so many different scenarios rather than like 2D fighters that have a couple of moves here and there. Not that I'm downplaying them, but the scope of this game is so big that in my mind I'm like, okay, let's give it some time. Let's wait and see. There's loads of characters in this game. Somebody might come up with a way to beat the character. Now I can confidently say no. Dragunov, Yoshimitsu, and Nina, Jin, maybe, you can confidently say those characters are really, really powerful and they're in need of some adjustments because it's a competitive game. You want it to be competitive. The reason that we're seeing Dragunovs everywhere is because he is too powerful. Like, it's getting out of hand with this constant talk about guessing as if Strike Throw is the most broken and insane mix-up in existence. KOF 13 shimmy into HD might be a dead character, or even a frame trap into HD could be the same if you have the resources available. Street Fighter 4, if Yun had 3 bars, you best believe that arsehole is going to red focus and stun the shit out of your character, and you can forget Ganajin. Like, come on, yeah, but let us not forget that when Yun and Yang dropped in that game, more specifically Yun, everyone complained. People were complaining then when he dropped in the game. They were saying he's too powerful. He dominated the entire tournament scene. We were seeing him getting picked up everywhere. That's not good balance. Yeah, we might have had to deal with it more back then because patches weren't as prevalent and they weren't as the companies weren't as willing to do them. But it doesn't mean it was a good thing. It wasn't a good thing. Like, the fact that we have systems in place now that allow us to update the games regularly when bullshit like that happens is a good thing. I don't understand the mentality of, oh, we had to deal with it then, so you guys should shut up. No, when you see a problem, and you have the resources to fix a problem, like all things in technology, you fix it. Yon was a problem, and if Yon dropped in that state now, in this day and age, he would be patched. It's actually getting pretty toxic these days across social media. I don't know why people always are, it's getting toxic. It's just a discussion. It's a difference of opinions. It's not toxic. Everybody has their own ideas. What would be toxic is the notion that it's my opinion and it's that it's my way or the highway. But people can express how they feel about the game. Like, I like Sparking Zero. I've got a lot of problems with it, but overall, I enjoy the game. I think it has a lot of issues, but I have fun on it. But I understand where people are coming from. I don't think it's toxic that people are online saying, hey, this game's got problems here, this game's got problems there. I wouldn't say toxic is a word I'd use, but the only thing I don't like is people saying, oh, there's people that are getting too good at the game and it's ruining it for other people. I wouldn't say that's toxic, that's just stupid. I don't understand what you want me to do. Do you want me to be shit at the game to make you feel better? Like, I don't really understand what you're looking for there. Whether it's in ranked or player match, I am free to go on wherever I want in the game, just like you are. But I can't stifle my progression to make you feel better. Maybe you should just, go play dive kick where there's one button. That's the only thing that I think is silly. I don't think it's toxic. I think it's silly. Perfect Legend replied to him saying, come on man, force 50-50s with no defensive layers to defend created from neutral skips weren't prominent in older games. I don't know who you tried to cater to, which is completely true. What we are seeing in Tekken 8, which is what I'm referring to because they're just talking about fighting games in general, we have never seen before. We've never seen, and again, I'm going to demonstrate this to you guys so you understand where I'm coming from. Kenzo replies saying, what games today have no defensive layers? I'm confused. I thought there were defensive options in every game, now that work in most situations. If you just look at Tekken 8, and if you look at the Tekken talks, I was in Amsterdam when they announced it, when Harad was standing explaining the direction, and me and my friends collectively sighed because we were like, this looks like we didn't use the word casino, but I think we said gambling a lot or whatever. There's always been 50-50s in games, but for anyone that understands how games are developed, you can ramp things up or you can tone things down. If you ramp something up too high and it leans too far in one direction, you suddenly get a scenario where a certain type of play is being favored over another. In Tekken's situation, the name of the game is aggression. They literally tell you the game is designed to be played this close. Playing like this is not a thing anymore. You get rushed down so quickly in this game by design. Not because, like in Tekken 7, where you can actually mash on people in Tekken 7, but there's enough defensive play in Tekken 7, and the game is slower. It's more at a moderate pace where you can pick apart your opponent. Yesterday, I sat playing this game in a deathmatch for 2 hours with one guy, and it started off quite even, and then by the end of it, I started to win. I went up like 7-0. Because I was able to slow the game down, play it to the pace that I wanted to play. He was playing very aggressive. I was playing very slow, counter heavy, methodical. You don't have that option in Tekken 8. That is not an option, and if you don't believe me, go and watch the top players. It is maximum aggression. That is the most effective way to play. That is how you win on Tekken 8. Anybody saying otherwise is lying. Now, if you are okay with that, I'm not shitting on you. I don't want you to think this video is me going, oh, you're an idiot because you like this. I'm not saying that. People have the right to like Tekken 8 if they want. That's their right. And your opinion's not wrong, right? It's just an opinion. It's your flavor. I don't like it. I'm just pointing it out. Okay, so anybody that's like, oh, but I like Tekken 8 because that's fine. This video is not for you then. The video is for people that don't understand why so many high-level players or intermediate players or even casual players are saying, we don't like the level of aggression in Tekken 8. It feels like everything is forced. And again, I'm going to get to forced in a little bit. I'm not trying to cater to anyone, mind you. It's far too commonplace to complain about said forced 50-50. Neutral skips existed long before today's fighting games. I'm still concerned where we jump to. It's just a thing of today. Everyone didn't have it before, yes, and those that did tend to be the more stronger characters, no? So leveling the playing field is bad in this regard. Not every move is balanced properly, so there will be some oversights. However, that doesn't make the games of today bad or lack defense. I actually think that he's talking about a different game. I think Perfect Legend, because I spoke to Perfect Legend in DMs, he was talking about Tekken. What Perfect Legend is saying for Tekken is true. I don't know if what Kenzo is saying for other games is true. I don't play those other games. My area of expertise would be around Tekken, Soul Calibur, and Mortal Kombat. some of the older Mortal Kombat games. Anyway, I quote retweeted him and I said, "It's true, all of the stuff mentioned here has always existed. The only problem is that there's a difference between a 50-50 and a forced 50-50, and there's a very clear difference, which I'm going to demonstrate in a second. The issue is not the mix-up itself. The issue is how you're getting there and what the games are allowing players to do to enforce the mix-up. Older games would give you a plethora of options and ways to open up an opponent whilst allowing the defender the ability to come up with a game plan to react accordingly. In newer games like Tekken 8, you're forced to stand still and in most cases take the mix-up or eat insane amounts of chip damage, a scenario that was not truly earned by the aggressor. I don't think the anger towards fighting games has come out of the blue. The games have been intentionally designed to make newer players feel stronger and limit defensive play, which is where stronger players have historically dominated." Now, that part is not really up for debate. That is what Harada said they were doing. They said it is on video. Moonsault Slayer covered this, I covered this, other YouTubers covered it. They said that the idea was to bring the gap like this, and by doing that, what they did was they increased aggression and lowered defensive mechanics. Defensive mechanics is usually where high level players shine, because being defensive is harder than being offensive, especially in a game that has 100 moves. If you're able to read your opponent, use Tsubakis, counters, sway out of the way, you're playing to a higher level than somebody that is just going like that. It's not a very hard concept to understand, and that is why they were able to do it with Tekken. That is why Tekken 8 went down that road. The idea was to bring in newer players, because newer players are not going to understand as much, but they can jump in and they can feel powerful and they've got heat there to make them feel like a Super Saiyan. It's a very basic concept to follow. I also had an interaction with Ghost from 3S, who, again, I don't want anyone to think I've got beef with these dudes. I ain't got no beef with any of them whatsoever. This is just a difference of opinions. But he said, "Brother, what you're describing is a mix-up, plain and simple. Games nowadays actually give you way more tools than ever to get out of these 50-50 scenarios. Like, I don't even know why this is even a debate. This whole discussion just sounds like a cop-out from people who are losing in newer games." Another thing, Tekken was an aggressive game. Tekken 7 tried to steer away from that, and now we're back to aggressive Tekken. Now, I don't know where he got that Tekken 8 gives you more options. I don't understand the mindset here. I mean, the very best players in the world are all expressing the same thing. I heard Kokoma the other day saying the game is a mess. I heard Arslan Ash, we saw Arslan Ash's tweet, everyone's seen it, I covered it in a video before. He called this a casino fighter. Multiple people are calling this a casino fighter. Everybody is talking about it, and yet people seem to not understand why. Now, we go to a game like Tekken 7. Now, I'm going to show you something. Fight.
But I don't like. I'm not gonna lie.
Now, you've just sat and watched this clip. Now I'm going to play this again. I'm going to play a specific part in slow motion. You see this part here that I'm playing where I've slowed down? Can you see the character there wincing in pain and the other character running at Lars? Kuma is running at Lars. Kuma is being forced to run in and Lars is being forced to stand still. Now, this might be a hard concept for some people to grasp, but when you increase plus frames on something, when you make it so somebody's negative, the more you do that, the more you're forcing a situation. So in that situation, if Kuma ran at Lars and they were at negative, or sorry, they were at 0, so they're both at 0, it's not really a forced 50-50 situation. Now, in this situation here that I've just played to you, apart from the egregious swinging of Kuma there, which we can talk about that in another video, you can see in this clip that Kuma goes for a armored heat engager, or whatever they call it, power crush, and Lars winces in pain and Kuma runs towards him. That situation is forced. Lars can't do anything. He has to stand it. The animation has to take place. Kuma is going to run at you and enforce a mix-up. It's not a situation where the player actively runs towards you and does a mix-up. That is very different. We've seen that in Tekken before. A perfect example of that is Kazuya. When Kazuya is wave dashing at you, you've got all your faculties in place. Your character's not sitting there going, and you can't move. You can move about, you can sidestep, you could jump, you can backdash, you can hop kick. You can go for a power crush, you can go for a grab, you can go for a dick jab, you can go for a down forward one. You have all of these options at all times. But in Tekken 8, the universal mechanic, regardless of attributes of the character, and attributes are important because you have some characters that are pure 50-50 characters like Kazuya, and you have characters that are not, like, I don't know, insert random grappler. We could even use Marduk for an example because he's going to show up in the game at some point. But even if you didn't use Marduk and you use somebody else like Kuma for example, a powerhouse character, or Jack or whatever, the attributes of these characters all change, but the universal mechanic makes it so that they all get the same situation, a forced mix-up. They all run in. That is not an option. That is forced. Me standing in one place is forced. I can't move. If I can't move, you're forcing me into a scenario. I don't understand why nobody understands this. Now let me show you something further before we continue reading the tweets. So you guys know that Marduk is my favorite character in this game. Now as a Marduk main, I can tell you that if this guy shows up in Tekken 8, everyone's gonna cry. Why is that? Marduk has this, right? This Valet Tudo stance. Now this is a mix-up, but in this situation, Heihachi can move around. Now I want you to imagine a scenario where his up forward 1, 2 is a heat engager, right? Now in this scenario, it's my turn, right? I can still press here. I can get a minor mix-up, right? So on hit, I'm +6, yeah? On block, I'm -2, right? Not punishable, but you can duck the second hit because it's a high. Now imagine, that goes from -2, right? To +6. Yeah, you can't punish him, but the situation changes immediately. Now I want you to imagine a scenario where this character hits you in Tekken 8 and that's a heat engager, right? Boom, and he starts running towards you, does that stupid sound. That goes from being +6 on hit to +infinity, or whatever it is on Tekken 8. Heihachi's going to stand in place. What's going to happen is that when I do this in Tekken 7, I can go for like a minor mix there. I can do something on you where I'm going to make you guess. What's going to happen in Tekken 8 is I'm going to do this, you're going to stand there and I'm going to be like this in your face. If you do this against someone that is good in Tekken 8, in Tekken 7, sorry, more often than not, they're going to be able to down forward one you out of it. It's not fast enough. You can do it if you condition people, but again, you're earning that scenario. If I do this in Tekken 8, boom, and it goes into the stupid heat animation, you're screwed. This guy is going to stand there, this powerhouse, and he's going to go forward 2, and you're going to get cooked. He's going to do his stupid combo, and then you're going to get finished. Okay, let's say that back 3 heat engager, boom, right, +8 on a hit. Let's see what it is on block. It's neutral, it's 0, right? If this move becomes a heat engager, or it becomes the heat dashing, so you do this and then you dash out of it, boom, he dashes, he runs towards you. I'm going to be +infinity and I'm going to be there in your face. This is a forced mixer. If I do this and then I'm in your face and I can do whatever I want, you're screwed. The reason that people are scared of this character and they don't want him in Tekken 8 is because he's already putting people in scary scenarios. And you could argue that some of them are a bit ridiculous. They're going to become astronomically more ridiculous in Tekken 8. That is why people are afraid of this character, because of the forced 50-50 situations. It's already bad enough that he has this. I mean, it's part of his character archetype, but it's a very powerful tool, right? Imagine what it's going to be like in Tekken 8 where you are forced to stand still. You are forced to stand still. Heihachi's not forced to stand still here. There's no scenario here where he's forced to stand still. He can do something here. You can't do anything against heat. You take heat, you're taking it. There's nothing you can do. He then said, brother, you have to guess regardless. So not all guesses are made the same. I explained this to somebody later on in the tweets because they weren't understanding what the difference between a 50-50 and a forced 50-50 is. If I am making you guess, right? Let's say, for example, that is -6. I'm safe. What's his plus attacks here? Marduk doesn't really have many plus attacks. Let's just go with jab, right? +1, I can probably do another jab after that. +3, right? If this went from +3 to +13, do you not think this would become an egregious mix-up? Yeah, I can do something after this. You're at my mercy. What happens if that becomes +13? Does that not become a more powerful mix-up? So yes, you're guessing either way, but you start to guess for your life when this goes from being +3 to +13. Because a character like Marduk in your face, can kill you very, very quickly. That is why they nerf and buff characters and their frame data. That's why you take someone that might have a plus 18 and bring it down to plus 6. Yes, you're still mixing them up. Yes, you're still plus, but you can't enforce an egregious mix-up, and I'm not stuck in place. If I'm minus 18, I'm not moving. I can't move. I'm either ducking or I'm standing, and I'm praying that I've guessed right there, and that's it. But if you're like -1, -2, I can probably sway, I can probably use my Tsubaki, I can probably hop kick, you know, if you don't get the timing precise. But if you give someone plus 18 frames, they can go downstairs and make a T, come back upstairs and do what they want to you. There's a massive, massive difference. Yeah, okay, you're guessing, but let's try to exercise some rationality here. There's a reason why they bring frames down. The concept of a 50-50 is you are forced to guess between both options, meaning there is no way out aside from you guessing the right option. No, that is framed poorly. I don't know if he meant to say something else. The concept of a 50-50 is to try and put you in a scenario to guess, right? To try and put you in a scenario. In some scenarios you can force it more than others. There's usually ways out. And again, I'm talking about Tekken. In Tekken 8, there's not a way out in a lot of situations. You're forced to take it. Chip damage becomes a problem, especially when you're dealing with a character like Kuma that we've just seen. There is usually a way out. He says there's no way out. That's wrong. If Heihachi is wave dashing in your face, you have about 10 ways to deal with it. It's scary when a Mishima is wave dashing in your face. Now imagine a Mishima was wave dashing in your face and your character's there going, oh, but however many frames. It becomes egregious at that point. It becomes forced. You are being forced to stand still. I don't have to stand still here. Heihachi's wave dashing at me, I might do that. Heihachi wave dashes at me, I might do that. I might do that. Can't do that in Tekken 8. You can't do that. You have to stand there. Now again, you might like it. I'm not shitting on you for liking it. That's fine, but it's not the same thing. They're completely different. Do you think having a move that would give you plus 100 is the same thing as giving you something that's plus 5? Like, cool, what are we talking about here? This is why they bring frames down or frames up for certain characters, because they make a difference in the fight. Sometimes it can be super unfair. Sometimes it can be too lenient for some people. And then I responded to him and I said to him basically what I just said to you guys in video format. He said if a mix-up is real, there is no way out. Well, that is the point of a mix-up. There's no way out of combos. When people are comboing you, unless you've got a breaker system in like Mortal Kombat, there's no way out. But a mix-up, like if Akuma's going for a demon flip, you're in a mix-up scenario now. You've got the demon coming down on you. He's about to either hit you over the head or slide or grab you. The way out is to guess right, but you have your options there. You could even just jab him out, or you could meet him in the air because you could move. Now picture a scenario where Akuma gets added to Tekken 8 and he goes into his heat dash and he dashes at you and then flips in the air. You can't move, you can't sidestep, you can't duck, you can't do nothing other than you can duck or you can stand there. But jabbing, meeting him in the air, sidestepping, that's all out the window. That is a lot of situations in Tekken 8. That's not a skill issue. Harada and the team literally built the game to be like that. They told you it's going to be more aggressive. You're going to be taking more of this bullshit. Part of the reason why they added chip, because you're going to take it. It's not a case of you're going to defend it and that's going to be it. No, you're going to take some damage. You're taking it. That's the way they designed it. They said it in the Tekken talk. I was in Amsterdam when they were talking to us saying this is how it's going to be. I don't even know why this is an argument. You can't backdash, you can't sidestep, you can't hop kick, you can't duck, you can't Tsubaki, you can't get out unless you guess correctly. That is literally a 50-50. Are you reading what you're saying, bro? That doesn't make any sense. You can do all of those things. That's part of the mix-up. The mix-up is you're risking your life to mix me up, and I am risking by throwing out an option there to beat your mix-up. That is my way out. If the game doesn't allow me to do that, that is a forced 50-50. If someone is trying to put you in a 50-50 and you got out, it's either you guessed right or the 50-50 wasn't real. How the 50-50, the reason it's called 50-50 is because half and half. You don't know. Half the chance I'm going to get this because it's not a combo. It's not legit. What I'm doing is not legit. When Kazuya's going for a hell sweep, it's not guaranteed. It's a 50-50. It's not real. I can block low. If it was a forced situation and they were like, dude, just stand there. If you try to press a button, you're gonna get hit. That would be a forced 50-50, and that is what happens in Tekken 8. I don't understand this. I really don't understand the mentality here. If you want to say the 50-50s are harder, then that's subjective, but what you're arguing is hella redundant. It's not about it being harder, it's about there being different. Is anyone here trying to convince people that the mix-ups you encounter in Tekken 7, Tag 2, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 are the same as the ones that you encounter in Tekken 8. What exactly do you think the heat system was for? What do you think the heat dashing was for? This is what I don't understand. It was designed with a purpose in mind. It has fulfilled that purpose, and that purpose is to nerf defensive mechanics, force players into scenarios, make newer players feel stronger, and make the game more aggressive. That is what it does. He then says if there was a way out, you guessed right, or it was fate. Like, we serious right now. In Tekken 5, Horang literally couldn't press against Nina and Brian because his jab was slower. Heihachi was dumb as hell in Tekken 5 with mad scenarios where you are not getting out unless you guessed right. We gotta take those rose tinted glasses off. Now I'm gonna get back to that in a moment because he ended up proving my point. I'll get to that in a second. Kenzo now responds to my retweet and he says, no, just know a 50-50 is a 50-50. That's nonsense. This forced crap needs to stop once again. 50-50, every fighting game has mix-ups or 50-50s. That is true. Strike throw from okay, wait, hold on. Every fighting game does have a 50-50, but would you say that 50-50s in certain fighting games are more egregious? Would you say that they're a little bit more unfair? Would you say that some fighting games trap you in place, like Tekken 8? Or are we saying all 50-50s are exactly the same? So if I create a character and they have a plus 50 move, that's the same as your character with plus 5. Is that what we're saying here? They're still 50-50s, right? Well, I mean, it makes no difference apparently. Plus 1, plus 2, plus 3. What's the point in nerfing characters? Just leave it as it is on release then. If someone is plus 10,000, what's the difference between plus 10? Strike throw from plus frames constitutes as a 50-50. When I knock you down, of course I'm allowed my pressure mix-up potential, which is going to lead into it, you guessed it, a 50-50. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. This is the problem when you talk to people on Twitter. Either they're not reading what you're saying, or they're pretending like you're saying something else. 50-50s have always existed. In Tekken especially, when you knock someone down, you're put in a 50-50 situation. What is the player supposed to do? Let you get out for free? Again, that's not what I said. No one's ever let anybody get out for free. You're completely missing the point. Damn, my bad, big dog. Let me let you get back up and play neutral again with me. No, that's not how fighting games work. Never have, never will. No one ever said that. As for older games having more options, not all of them do, so I don't agree. Again, I think there was some miscommunication here. I was not talking about other fighting games. I'm not going to pretend to know every other fighting game like a lot of these people do. They think because they play one fighting game that they know all fighting games. Just because I play Tekken, Street Fighter or Soul Calibur does not mean that I know Under Night in Birth, Guilty Gear or BlazBlue, right? They're not all the same. Street Fighter 4 had no defensive mechanics other than block, focus, backdash. Older Tekken had no system mechanic other than block or save the player. Yes, Tekken didn't have these things before. It relied on the player. It also didn't have a situation where the game would make you run at your opponent and be plus. That also did not exist. The rest revolved around movement via backdash and sidestep into escape. Nothing on block to help the player like an alpha counter. Now if you said maybe defensive options selects, okay sure, but those things are not intended more often than not in the game's design. Players find option selects, then devs don't make them. Older games have a plethora of ways to open up your opponents. Again, just want to make it clear, I am talking about Tekken, I'm not talking about Guilty Gear. I couldn't give less of a shit about Guilty Gear and how it's designed. No offense to the Guilty Gear players, it's just not my area of expertise. I couldn't tell you right from left in that game. That depended on how good your character was in the mix-up department. Let's make sure we get that straight, because this holds true even now. So I don't know where this has come from. Then allowing the defender counterplay, Guilty Gear literally had Zato. Again, I don't know anything about Guilty Gear, I'm not interested in that. But for a while in Tekken Tag 2 in arcade, Brian and Horang was broke due to their unblockable setups back then. What was the answer? Don't get put into that situation. Back in those days, the games couldn't be updated. And so when certain things were released broken, they were just broken and we had to deal with it. We had no alternatives. If Brian and Horang were released today and they had broken things, they would be patched out because it's not as intended. Just like he was saying with option selects, those things are discovered and players will abuse them, but they're not intended. It's not for the intended purpose, so they would be patched out. So you can cite broken characters in that, but when I'm talking about Tekken 8, realize that most of the time, almost all the time, I'm not talking about a specific character, although Dragunov is egregious, but 99% of the time we're talking about the system in place. Pulling character examples kind of proves my point, because we've not had a system like this where it homogenizes the entire thing and everybody's doing the same thing. All the matches play out the same way, all characters end up playing the same way because they are forced to play that way. In older Tekken games you weren't forced to play that way. It's in the name of the game. I don't even know why this is an argument. If you're upset about things like heat engages, that's a direct correlation to the previous title being viewed as not entertaining to play or watch. But even then you have to get hit in that situation. That is your fault, not the game. You got hit, period. Again, these are like nursery level talking points. Yeah, okay, you get hit. Everyone gets hit in a fighting game. That's not no one's Floyd Mayweather over here. The point is what happens following that. Otherwise, okay, you get hit. Here's plus 100. Here's 10,000 Hadokens in your face. You can't do anything. You're taking that chip. Okay, you got hit, and that's not an argument. That is a poor argument. You get hit. Okay, cool. How does the game react following that? In Tekken 8 scenario, the heat engages, it forces you to stand still. So the common talking point is, well, just don't get hit. Thanks for the advice. Like, it's a fighting game. It's like saying in Call of Duty, don't get shot. You're going to get shot. Let's actually have an intelligent conversation. What happens following that? Why are people exhausted with Tekken 8? Why would they rather be sitting on Tekken 7? They got their plus frames off you messing up, and the opponent doesn't have to use that move to whiff punish you, which means by design you have to be smart about using that move, since he is strong and just using it willy-nilly may not be the best option. So all this force talk, yeah, nah, I hear you, but no. This force crap ain't it, broski. If you just don't like mix-ups, just say that. The rest of what you're saying is clearly rose-tinted glasses in full effect. It's not rose-tinted glasses because unlike you, I actually play the old Tekken games. I play them quite frequently. I enjoy Tekken Tag 2, it's my favorite Tekken game, and I stream Tekken 7 now, and I've been playing it with friends both online and offline. So it's not rose-tinted glasses. Like I said, our local arcade is here and we have a Tekken 6 arcade there, which I've played multiple times. So I would advise you to go back and play the old Tekken games before you start preaching to someone like me. But that aside, this whole puffing up your chest, oh, just don't get hit, is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Everybody's going to get hit. Please never develop fighting games. The point of having these discussions is to understand why the game reacts a certain way after you get hit. Otherwise, by your line of logic, yeah, it's heat, and yes, they get to put their plus frames on you. Okay, just give them plus 80 then. What? How plus is heat, right? Let's say it's plus 10. Make it plus 20. You got hit, right? Just learn to block. Don't get hit by heat. Right? These talking points are absolutely nonsensical. We did a stream not too long ago, and it was a no heat stream, right? So we were playing Tekken 8 and we were burning heat at the beginning of the battle and having a regular Tekken fight. And suddenly moves became less egregious because they weren't forcing you into scenarios. I also want you to imagine a situation, right? Like I said earlier, you're playing Tekken 8, Marduk's just dropped, and he is in your face. Boom! Heat engager. Now this guy's running at you with this stance. Bang. Like, this is not fun. It's already annoying for people to fight this character. I know, I play the character. I get hate mail all the time. You do this, boom, heat runs in your face. Boom, heat burst. He runs in your face. Now he's no longer -9, now he's +9. After this, it destroys neutral. It forces a situation. It makes players that are not that good. Look at even this. This is ridiculous. What the? Why? I didn't even know you could do that. -8 might as well be +8. But imagine that's a heat engager. Boom! Now he's running in your face after doing that to you. You can't even punish him in the first place. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how people don't understand this. I can't wait until people see Marduk in Tekken 8 to really understand what I'm talking about here. Because if you are a new player and you've just come to Tekken by way of Tekken 8 and you've never faced this guy before, you're in for a treat. You're going to pull your hair out, I'm guaranteeing you. Goes from 3S then says, he replies to one of my responses because I said to him, mix-ups are not real, that's why they're mix-ups, they're fake. You're mixing your opponent up. They have an opportunity to get out of the situation and usually punish you for it. That's why they're fake, they're mix-up. He then replies saying that's completely false and it's not exclusive to Tekken either. You just say you don't like getting mixed in Tekken 8 instead of making it seem like modern fighting game mix is some unique unicorn that never existed in older games. I love this. All of the top Tekken players are saying the same thing. Kokoma, Arslan Ash, Knee. I can't remember some of their names. You've seen them on the Tekken World Tour. You've seen their tweets on Twitter. They're all saying the same thing, but people that don't really play Tekken, for some reason, they seem to think they've got it figured out. I'm not even to the level of Arslan Ash, but I know Tekken well enough. As a matter of fact, I've even had players. I've had King J on my podcast. I've had Blackheart, who has every single character at God of Destruction. I've had other people on there, even Frame Whisperer. Everybody says the same thing. Everybody that is seasoned on Tekken says the exact same thing. And Harada said it himself. He designed the game that way. And yet people who don't really play the game that much, maybe dabble here and there, seem to have it figured out. No, Tekken has not always been this way. It's not that I don't like mix-ups. How could I dislike mix-ups being a person that predominantly plays Tekken when there's 100 moves per character? By proxy, I'm turning on a game that is purely made up of mix-ups. Almost exclusively everything. Like this situation right here, You want to mix up scenario here, you don't know where I'm going. You don't know if I'm going high, you don't know if I'm going low. You know if I'm going mid. It's not that I don't like mix-ups. I hate when people try to drag the arguments into, oh, skill issue or mix-ups. Or sorry, you don't like mix-ups. Or you just say you don't like the game. Like, you're trying to have a conversation on why people feel this way. He then posted a bunch of clips. Now, I'm not going to reference the Third Strike and the Marvel vs. Capcom one because, again, I'm not talking about those. And Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a very broken game anyway, so it's probably not the best thing to bring up. But he pulled up this Jin clip here, right? Which I found funny since Tekken 4 is a broken game. We all know Tekken 4 is very broken. We might love it. We might have fond memories of it. But Tekken 4 is broken. And one of the most egregious examples of that is Jin. Now, in this clip he brings up, it says, however, this unblockable laser scraper had a jest frame version. If you release D or down forward 2 on the exact frame when first blue spark appears, you get the jest frame laser scraper, which is completely unavoidable. It could not be blocked, interrupted or parried. Now, firstly, I'm saying that the issue in Tekken 8 is a system-wide issue which affects everybody regardless of tier placing. What he's done is he's made my point for me. Not only is that not a mix-up because it clearly says it's unavoidable, you're eating that. If they do that, you're taking it. That is also a character-specific problem that would be patched in today's games. People that were using Jin were essentially getting away with murder. It says very clearly, and I remember this because I've played Tekken 4. I was there when Tekken 4 was out, playing it, right? Don't forget, I'm 32 years old, so I've been around for some time now. Jin was busted. Okay, this is not a good example for making your point. This makes my point for me. He then pulls up Heihachi, who in Tekken 5 had a busted unblockable tech which was not reactable. Okay, so if you tech the wrong way against Heihachi, he has an unblockable tech, right? And it does way more than half your health. In most instances, this thing would kill you. That does not help your argument. That is again a character specific problem, not a system-wide issue. I'm not saying that older games didn't have problems with their characters. They did. That's why a lot of old games are remembered in sort of a comedic way. They're busted. They were a lot of fun to play with your friends. In this day and age where we can patch them, that would be taken out almost immediately. But Tekken 5 as a whole did not have a system in place that locked you in place or forced you to tech a certain way to take unblockables against everybody. So again, you're making my point for me. Broken characters have always existed. A broken system like this, or an egregious mix-up system like this, forced mix-ups, has not. And this conversation just kept on going. It kept on going. It started to get a bit more heated, and I decided to tap out of it and just make a video on it instead. If you can't see the difference between Tekken 7 and Tekken 8, and you don't understand why a lot of the top players are complaining about the game, then you're not playing it. There's no other way to put it. I don't care what players you've played with, you're not playing the same game that we are. The system changes in Tekken 8 were intentional, or rather intentionally made it so you're forced to take mix-ups because he wanted it to be more aggressive. He wanted to not have the game taking place over here, he wanted it over here. He wanted you to be taking chip damage, he wanted there to be more plus frames, he wanted people to rush down more, and he wanted people to be aggressive, and that is what we're seeing. You take Jin, Kazuya or Heihachi from Tekken 7 and then you look at Tekken 8 versions. It's night and day with how they're playing. The playstyle is completely changed. When this guy comes out, I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of how he is going to force you into scenarios. There's particular situations in this game where that happens. In Tekken 8, it is everywhere. And the reason people are exhausted with the game, the reason they're tired of it, is because it feels like the game is almost playing the game for other people. It doesn't feel like you're doing it yourself. Where it might be a character-specific problem with other Tekken games, it is a system-wide issue, and that is why it is being called a casino fighter. It's not a hard concept to grasp. These mix-ups have not existed in this fashion before. There is a difference between +5 and +50. There's a reason why they bring plus frames down or increase plus frames for certain characters. Otherwise, they would leave them the same. They would make no difference. If you think 0 is the same as, I don't know, what's he got plus? This guy's got nothing plus. If you think 0 is the same as +10, or if you think +10 is the same as +30, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. If you think Marduk running in your face and you're at -30 is going to be no different to Marduk running in your face and you're -3, we're not playing the same game. That's it. That's the video, guys. I don't know how else to explain this. This is this is baffling to me. Honestly baffling.